So with that, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce today morning's keynote speaker, Tom Casey. Tom is the General Manager within the Microsoft SQL Server development team and is responsible for managing the overall strategy, design, development, and delivery on the Microsoft Business Intelligence technologies. And today is going to be a great keynote, some exciting demos.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to it. Welcome, Tom.
Great. Thanks so much, Rashad. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2. You know, it occurs to me in the many years we've been getting together that we've gone from talking about the fact that there might be a BI project in your near future towards really recognizing you for the BI experts and important BI practitioners that so many of you have become. Now, you've accomplished this by building on your SQL skills one project at a time in many cases, and by learning together as a community in PASS, and I think that's great. I'm going to do something a little different with my remarks this year than I have in the past. This year, we're going to talk about product, and we're going to talk about customers and real-life examples, as we often do, but I want to couch it all in a call to action for you right from the beginning. This year, I want to challenge you to be real agents of change. You to make a real difference in the way people work with and experience data and information in your organizations. And I want you to keep in mind one important statistic as we're having this conversation that will help you remember why you must answer this call to action. That is 20%. 20%. It's commonly thought in our industry that fewer than 20% of the people that we seek to serve every day as a community have access to the important BI tools and to the data they really need to be effective in everyday decision making. That's fewer than 20%, people. That's lousy. We can do better than that. We absolutely have to do better than that. And I actually believe we're at an important time where you become key. You actually hold a key to making a significant difference in reaching beyond those that traditional BI practices have served out to the rest of the organization, what I characterize here as the have-nots. And we'll talk a little bit today about why that is. We're going to spend the next 59 minutes talking about customers, talking about the product, and stressing a lot a new class of experiences that we as professionals really need to bring to the users that we serve every day. We're going to focus on a few things. We're going to talk about how the foundations that you've built already can enable you to emerge stronger in the new economy. How you can bring a new set of experiences and agility to the way people work with data in your organizations. How you can be more effective and efficient as IT professionals and BI practitioners in doing so. And here's the key, how you can continue to do those things using what you already know. The power of SQL Server, of SharePoint, and Office. So before we really dive into some of the detail, let me set some context, given there are so many people who are new to the PASS community and potentially new to SQL Server. For those who haven't been with us for a long time, let me remind you. For more than a decade now, Microsoft has been very focused on bringing BI to every size organization and every scale of user. From our initial investments in OLAP services, now called analysis services, which we introduced back in SQL 7.0, setting the standard for query with multidimensional or MDX query language, through to yesterday's exciting announcements in the big box you saw sitting here running the Parallel Data Warehouse Edition. We've been very serious about traditional BI scenarios. And we continue to invest heavily. In fact, we've never had as significant an investment as we have now in really going after traditional BI at all kinds of scale, from the very back end of integrating your data to scaling your data warehouse, out through the content delivery to your end users, through reporting and analytics, through the consumption experiences that we expect people to have in the tools. We've done all of this, and we've grown a lot. And along the way, you have too. This year, PASS is the place to be to learn about Microsoft Business Intelligence. And a few things struck me when I looked at the numbers coming back from PASS. A few years ago, we just had a few sessions really focusing on BI and data warehousing. This year, we're fortunate enough to have 2 dedicated tracks. Last year, we had 41 sessions focused on business intelligence alone, and BI, and data warehousing. This year, there are more than 50 sessions and some great hands-on labs and opportunities for you to continue learning. And what's fantastic to see this year is we went from 20% of you selecting last year that your track area and your focus was in business intelligence, towards better than 30% this year focused in that area. I love the enthusiasm in this audience, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to, again, spend a few minutes talking to you about what I see in the road ahead and the changes we need to make. So you can decide if the glass half full is the glass half empty. I want to acknowledge that it has been, a rough year and a half for a lot of folks. And as I have conversations with CIOs and IT directors, even over the last few months, as we've seen some good economic indicators in the consumer market starting to return, I still hear that you all are being asked to do more with less. You're being asked to do much more with much less than you ever have before. And yet, I'm actually quite optimistic. You might say that I'm bullish about the road ahead for us in the next year. And I want to share with you a little framing for some of the rest of the conversation about why I'm so bullish. There are a couple of interesting things happening. We're at a convergence point, a pivot point that's actually really important. First, the standardization and consolidation in BI tools that began prior to the recession, long before the recession, accelerated and gained additional focus over the last several years as people sought to cut costs both in training and in licensing of software. You all have built a great foundation of integrated and sound data in many of your organizations. The combination of those two things, a more standardized footprint, the ability to get a tool set out to more users in the organization, sets us up pretty well to expand from that point and really be effective in building more. And what really has me excited is the fortunate timing as well around the commoditization of some new classes of technology that we've seen evolving over the last few years. Think about the gains in just the last year or so in commodity memory pricing, the amount of memory we have in everyday enterprise boxes, in the density of cores and some of the exciting announcements around the relative uplift from adding additional cores on the same socket. Think about the way we're able to rethink I/O subsystems impact with solid-state memory becoming more and more capacity-driven as we've progressed over the last year or so and as we look ahead in the roadmap. And what's interesting about those technology advancements on the hardware side is not just the relative breakthroughs. It's what it enables us to do in the software. It's the innovation in the software that allows us to do some of the exciting things that Ted showed yesterday and some of the things we're going to talk about today. And we recognize that, like you, we're being asked to do more with less. And doing more with less doesn't mean doing more of the same with the less that we have. It means doing some things differently. And we're going to talk about some bold steps towards giving people some additional freedom to work with data in the year ahead. So I'm pretty bullish. I'm pretty optimistic. It's not just me. We've actually got some great success stories in the last year or so that we've heard from customers who've done quite well because they've set a good foundation for the way they work with data. I want to invite a gentleman to the stage in just a moment to talk a little bit about his story. He's one of you. In his organization, he's built a sound data foundation, got the tool sets, made a bet on SQL Server and the Microsoft platform as a whole, and they've really had, in this organization, a good year. So we're going to step forward, and I'm going to invite to the stage now to have a short conversation with me the Directing Officer of Business Intelligence and Software Development at Premier Bank Card, Mr. Ron Van Zanten. Ron? Hey, Ron, thanks for joining me, and thanks for wearing the uniform today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I look like standing.
We did not plan this, by the way. We really. He showed up in the green room backstage, and I said, "Oh boy, they're not going to believe this."
It's a good look.
It is. It's fancy. It's fancy. All right. Well, Ron, I've had the fortune of kind of following what you all have been doing over the last several years, but the audience here may not know a whole lot about Premier Bank Card. So why don't we start, and maybe you can tell the folks just a little bit about Premier and what you all do.
Sure. Premier Bank Card is a credit card company. We're the 9th largest issuer of MasterCards in the United States. We have about 4 million cardholders, 3,200 employees, and in 2009, even though it's been a tough economic year, we've continued to have over 20% growth in the company. Even this month, we're going to process over 600,000 new credit card applications.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's great to hear about some positive news, some good results. What's the role, we're talking about business intelligence today, kind of what's the role of business intelligence in your environment, and what's its strategic element in your organization?
To Premier Bankcard, our data warehouse and our BI environment, we consider it a strategic asset. We've got over 25 terabytes of data, customer data, and we really feel that's something that's differentiating ourselves with our competitors. We're collecting all this information, and it's still a challenge for us. We still have to find, with the new economic needs of our customers and their desires, we're having to go out and find entirely new universes of customers. We're having to test a whole bunch of different products. We need to continue that growth. And our BI stack has been the engine and the place where all that information gets collected, it gets standardized and disseminated out to the entire company. Everybody at Premier Bankcard, every single employee gets some sort of data feed and information from our data warehouse.
That's great. So, and how many employees do you have roughly?
3,200 employees.
That's great. So over 3,000 people actually receiving information in some form out of the warehouse. It's good to get that kind of scale and value. You made a choice a few years ago on SQL Server and on the Microsoft stack. Maybe we can talk a little bit about why you made that choice relative to others.
Yep, I've got to admit, we did look at some of your competitors. We looked at Oracle and Teradata and SQL Server. And what we really wanted to accomplish, we really wanted it to be different. We wanted to be able to build a schema the way we wanted to build it. We wanted to control the kind of information that we put into the data warehouse. And we also wanted to make sure that it was accepted by our employees. So SQL Server was the best match. It gave us the performance. It was at the right price. And people were allowed to use tools that they're familiar with. Microsoft Office was on every desktop. Reporting services is a very familiar environment. And everybody that we looked at, Analysis Services was always the OLAP engine that they were going to use. So it was just a natural choice for us.
That's great. That's great. So you've also become early adopters now over the last couple of releases for us, participating in the current technology adoption partner programs around what we're doing with Parallel Data Warehouse, with SQL Server 2008 R2. As we kind of wrap this little section here, what's most exciting in the immediate roadmap for you? What are the couple of things you're really looking forward to?
Well, the board of directors made me do a report last month, and they really wanted to know where we stood. They wanted to make sure the BI stack was going to be flexible and would be scalable and grow with the company no matter what direction they decided to take it. And I was very pleased to be able to report to them. We did get a chance to look at Madison and test our data warehouse with Madison, and it is fast. I can testify to that. It made some of our queries that would run for an hour, and they would run for less than a minute. I mean, it's very good results. So having that kind of scale-out option for us, and yesterday, just like all of you, I saw 192 processors running on a scale-up type of scenario. That's exciting too. So we know the platform can do anything that they want, and they were very pleased with that report. And now, over the last couple of years, the data visualization, the maps, and the charting and the graphs has made the information that comes out of our BI stack much more understandable and consumable by everybody in the company. It's not just flat reports. People can actually visualize the information, visualize the data, and it's helped a lot with the understanding of exactly what's going on. We couldn't be happier with the partnership that we have right now with Microsoft and the place we are in using your tools.
Well, that's great. Well, as always, we appreciate the feedback from you and others. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with this audience talking about what you guys are up to and the road ahead for you. So Thanks a bunch, Ron.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So, it's great to hear the enthusiasm from Ron, the passion for what he's doing, the optimism, et cetera. And I want to point out that a lot of the things that Ron talks about are very, very consistent with Microsoft's vision for BI. As I said, for many years we've talked about taking BI from the realm of the specialty worker with specialty tools towards something that really reaches everybody in an organization. I'd love to tell you it's super common when I talk to somebody who's invested in a large data warehouse that I hear an answer like Ron's, which says, I'm getting value out of it to every single user in my organization. But the fact is, we're not there yet. We still have work to do. We've done a good job at getting an integrated information platform together so you can build end-to-end solutions, leveraging your existing skills. And as I said, the market's undergone a bit of a change, and we have too, in really focusing the tools investments for consumptions of that BI information directly in the places people already live on their desktops, and I think that's important. But there are some things we must do to change.